Welcome to another episode of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson, and I am back all by myself. This is another solo episode. We're starting to get really, I'm starting to get really in my flow with solo episodes. You know, what we try to do is we try to have a cadence of me by myself, my trusty partner Chet in the building the following week, a guest the next week, and then either Chet or me by myself, and then kind of keep that cadence each month. That way we keep Champ Talk nice and fresh for you guys, giving you guys some variety, giving you guys other people's perspectives. You know, I know you guys will just love and just line up down the road to hear me talk my shit all day long, every day. But obviously, you know, that shit can run out. So we want to give other people an opportunity. I love bringing on, you know, great guests and love Chet and his perspective. So anyway, but today you got me. But before we go further, let's get the normal stuff out of the way. This Champ Talk episode is brought to you by Discount Carpet. Look, Big Lou, excuse me, has been taking care of us here at SPY for a while. His son is Louis Amabella, the champ, Amabilly, the champ. So, you know, it's always good to throw shout outs to him. And the man comes through and hooks us up with carpet all the time. He's got the Champ Talk carpet in here. He's got the carpet out there for the jiu-jitsu mats and for the gym. So, big shout out to them. Check out Discount Carpet and see what you can get from them. And like all the other episodes that we do, please, if you get value from this, share this to somebody else. Send this to somebody who would get value, who would learn something, gain something, you know, find something valuable from this Champ Talk episode. And obviously, like, subscribe, go to our channels, you know, give us a like, a thumbs up, something like that, man. We're on everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Champ Talk, Spotify, Apple, Champ Talk, Branden Hudson, Champ Talk, all of them, you know what I mean? But I kid. It's kind of hard to joke around when you're by yourself, but I am the one that if you lock me up in a padded room, I would still find great value in myself and humor. So that's just who I am. But, you know, let's move forward. Let's talk about the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the basics. We're going to talk about something that no one likes to talk about. And if they do like to talk about it, it's probably a little weird, but it's a touchy subject. I put a post up out this weekend talking about this subject. I never talk about it. It's something that I've been, you know, plagued with in my life, with experience from it, not of it, but you know, collateral damage from it. And it's been one of them things where it's a tough concept to kind of grasp and get a hold of and wrap our heads around. And that's suicide. You know, suicide is unfortunately a part of our life. It's a part of what we have to experience in this human experience, going through life and finding that loved ones, friends, family members, people that we look up to, unfortunately end up killing themselves. And it's awful. I particularly have never experienced that low of depression. You know, I don't think I've really even experienced depression. And if I have, I didn't know. One's never diagnosed. I've been sad. I've had moments of, you know, disparity and things where just was really bleak and dark. But I've never had the moments of thinking that I would, you know, unalive myself, like the kids say nowadays. I just don't think that it's never gotten that bad for me, right? But what I will say is, in the other side of that, excuse me, I think honestly, I'm too narcissistic or I have too much of an ego to kill myself. I think the world would be broken without me, and I still have work to do here. So I just have never had that feeling. But so many people have. So many people have felt that way and have had those moments to think that the world will be better without them. You know, that they're all alone. They have nowhere else to run to, nowhere else to go to, that they think that they're the problem. And my goal for this episode today is to get a little vulnerable with you guys, to share some information and some experiences that I went through. My goal for you guys is to give you the ability to take something from this and apply it to your life, whether you're thinking about potentially harming yourself or if you know somebody who is. And just give perspective, man. I'm not the expert on this topic, and I'm not a licensed doctor or anything like that. But I can just tell you from my perspective and what I've gone through and what I've had to experience, you know, what I had to come to grips with. And you know, it's the unfortunate part of life. You know, I've had so many people kill themselves that I've been friends with, associated with, loved, cared about. It's just it's one of those things where it's like it's you never understand it. You never understand why. You never realize that people are even at that space. And just before I even go in depth and go any deeper, I just want everybody to know that's listening to this that experienced some sort of form of loss. By no means am I trying to put my shoes in your shoes if you've lost a loved one to suicide, or if you've had moments where um you've had to figure things out based upon losing a loved one. I can't share that space, and I'm not going to say what's right and what's wrong. I'm just going to give you my perspective. But I know that in 1 year, I remember vividly, I had lost 5 people in 1 year, and 3 of them were to suicide. And it was crazy, man. It was it was one of those things. I've been losing people. I've been losing people since I've been in 7th grade, and it's no, excuse me, 6th grade. And you start off with losing your grandma or losing your uncle, and things like that. People that, you know, the course of life has its process, right? It has its due diligence. Life is going to life, and we're going to start off as babies, and God forbid, we're going to end off as elderly people, and we're going to pass away. And even saying goodbye to a grandmother or a grandfather or a loved one, or father, mother, anybody, none of that's easy. None of this is an easy play. But it does make a little bit more sense because they were older and they lived a long life, and maybe some of them were in pain, and it was time to go. And then as I started getting older, my first experience with suicide came from one of my best friends. It was actually a young lady. I was, we were in high school, little puppy love. Like, I was actually had a crush on and met her and thought she was awesome. And this day, and she was in 9th grade at the time. And this was in 95 or 96. So this was like, you just didn't hear a lot of younger people taking their lives at that time. This is pre-social media. This is, this was a shocker, man. This rocked our community, rocked everything. And this young lady ended up taking her life. And it didn't affect me as much directly, but my best friend was she was destroyed. She was just, and I didn't understand back then, like, exactly how to, what to do. It's almost like I was kind of like numb to it, or like oblivious to how depth the pain was. Like, I knew, obviously I was sorry and had her back. And then, I don't know if it was all the weed I was smoking. I don't know if it was whatever, but it's just, sometimes you get just so desensitized to things, and it's a weird flex. I can't quite describe it on a podcast right now without someone else kind of asking questions or probing out of me, because I'm kind of having a confusion now explaining it. But yeah, just having like that moment where somebody's hurting and you don't know what to say, you don't know really what to do, you don't know how long to comfort. But my best friend was destroyed, man, and I did the best that I could, and hopefully I did a good job of being a friend, even as a 9th grader and young 14, 15-year-old boy. But that was like the first time that I had experienced that. And then, as I became more popular in high school and started, indulging in a lifestyle that, I talk about a lot on here and throughout different courses. You start meeting a lot of people. When you're selling drugs, you're the guy. So, especially weed, you know what I mean? So, like, here locally, I was the guy at every party, the guy at all the friends groups, different friends groups, things like that. You start really just kind of, getting to know a lot of people and connecting with a lot of people. And, I had some run-ins and some good connections and good people. And, man, all of a sudden it just seemed like people were just taking their lives left and right for like a 10-year span, man. I can probably count off the top of my head, man, probably almost one a year. And it was always some way, shape, or form, some sort of, man, I had, I'm not trying to be too far into graphic, because if anybody that knows these people are listening, I don't want to rehash any wounds, and I certainly don't want to offend anybody. But I can tell you my experience. I had one friend. He was associate, I should say. It was cool. Yeah, I viewed us as more of an associate, more of us kind of cool and hanging out. And he was, selling weed for me, and he had, a decent amount. And I didn't know that he got involved in other drugs, and he was using other drugs, and he ended up, taking his life, and he left a note, and a family member had called me and said she found the note. And out of all the people that he had left this note to, and the reason why, and he was a very detailed guy, rest his soul, he made sure that they told me. And I thought that was really kind of wild because I didn't know the family. I didn't know. We were just associates. You know what I mean? Maybe he felt guilty about the money. I don't know. Like I clearly none of that matters to when you think about somebody's life. But he wanted to make sure that I knew, and that kind of hit me. That hit me in a weird space. Then you know what I mean? That was like a weird, really weird kind of play, and I just didn't know what to think about that. There was so many thoughts that I have. Was maybe he thought I was more of a friend to him than I thought he was to me? Did he just have some sort of moral code that he wanted to make sure that I knew that hey, don't worry about your debt. Don't worry about his debt. You ain't getting it. You know, uh, did he have cries for help that I missed? Did he have moments where I missed the cries for help and missed the signs that I could have helped him? I don't know. I don't know. I had another really good friend, um, really, really good friend who he ended up, getting involved in drugs and went down a slope, and he really battled. You know what I mean? He kind of fit that. If I could kind of describe him and his pain, he kind of fit that, that grunge or alternative rock or metal, guy that struggled with substance abuse and just lived in so much pain and wanted to quit but couldn't quit, and it was always, it always called him back, and you just saw so much. It kind of reminded me of that. I still to this day when I hear that song "Down in a Hole" by Alice in Chains, I get sometimes worked up a little bit thinking about my friend and what had happened with him. And yeah, man, he ended up having a substance abuse, and he had this moment where him and his partner, who was my cousin, they ended up they were using, and she ended up ODing, and he was there, and he took that on as personal responsibility of his own, and it was really hard on him. And so he reached out to me at that moment and that time. And granted, I might have been I might have been selling a lot of weed back then, and I've been in that drug world, but I really didn't mess with the hard drugs just because I understood the laws. And there were like a kind of group of people I didn't really want to be associated with, because you never know what a guy who's hooked on drugs is going to do or say, or who's it's just a whole different. I dabbled in that world, but I didn't hang out in that world. It was a totally different landscaping. You had to worry about enough when you're moving what I was moving and doing the things I was doing and with the people I was with. But when you're starting to mess with those hard drugs and things like that, man, you're talking about a whole different conversation of people. And so, I didn't really have experience in that kind of world, but I didn't really mess with those kind of people. But this was my friend, and I cared about him, and he had a house that we all could go hang out at, and kind of, again, we're drinking, we're smoking weed, we're hanging out, we're not doing hard drugs, but at least I didn't think he was. But we're all hanging out and just being there for him. He was down at a bad dump. I mean, my buddy was waking up, going and drinking. He would go to the liquor store when it opened at 9 and already have a 10 or 15 dollar bottle of Beefeater vodka smashed by 12, going back to get another one. Just, I mean, and I was there for him. And for about 2 weeks, we hung out. We were, had his back. If he was going to use, I'd show up to kind of talk him off the ledge. And, and then it got to a point where I needed to be with my family, and I needed to be with them. And he kind of got resentful one night. And I'm like, dude, I can't be there every day. Just be strong. And, it's kind of like the addict behavior and stuff like that. I was the fault. And long story short, man, he ended up taking his life and doing it in a way that was just horrifying, for what the parents walked into and saw. And I mean, he was in a space where, and I knew this for a fact, he just thought that the world would be better without him, and he couldn't grasp the pain and take the pain anymore. And I was very, very angry with him and very resentful. I was very angry with all the people that killed themselves that I was close to. Very angry. Stopped going to the funerals and stuff. I went to his, but it was one of those things where I just was like, man, I took that really to heart because I didn't show up. Maybe I should have showed up. Maybe that night with my family wasn't as important as the night I could have talked him off the ledge. You don't know. You take it as when you're close to somebody who passes away like that. I always think, and I heard somebody, I think I heard Joe Rogan and a friend talking about it as well, where it's like, I feel a little responsible for that because I think that I could have talked him out of it or talked him off to the ledge. And the guest on that show responded and he said, it's okay to feel that way. That means you cared. You know what I mean? That means that you really, really, truly cared. And man, and I could go on, man. There was, just so many cases, man. So many cases that some way, shape, or form directly affected me. And I had some sort of relationship or hand in hand with these people. And I got real bitter and real cold and real angry towards suicide. I got real angry towards that because you never know. Like, as bad as it sounds, you can look at some people and say, oh yeah, that guy, he's probably going to kill himself because of the way they act and the woe is me. And then they make the threats and stuff like, you shouldn't never take any threat lightly, but there's some people you could look at and be like, yeah, well, he was always down the hole or she was always, in the dumps. But majority of the people that we come across and we talk to, you can't tell. You can't tell if they're suicidal or if they're on the edge. I seen this meme express or show a picture of, what it looks like with somebody dealing with depression, and they it was a picture of them going to their closet and putting on the regular face outfit and the regular human skin suit or whatever, and it was a cartoon. And meanwhile, the depressed person was this sad, poor image of a being that gets in and out of bed and things like that. And it's just, man, it breaks my heart to think that, and it's so awful. But I really honestly never. I just had so much bitterness, so much anger, so much frustration. Like, I would call those people selfish, and I just could not understand like the pain that they would leave behind. You know what I mean? The pain of their mother and father finding them, hanging in their garage, or the pain that their loved one would find them with their heads blown off. You know what I mean? At a swing set, or with their getting a call from a police officer or that saying that, hey, we found your brother, with the tailpipe stuff, out on the side of the road. I mean, these are just ungodly things that I think are just so selfish and so anger I did for so long. And I was so mad, dude, so angry, so resentful, so mad. I got to the point where I stopped going to the people's funerals. It got to be so many people were killing themselves that I cared about and I loved, that I just stopped going to the funerals and refused to go because I didn't want to live that pain and live that moment again. I was avoiding that part of it, the closure part of it, and the saying goodbye part of it, and hugging the moms and the wives and the husbands and the boyfriends and all that, girlfriends and the family and the kids. There's nothing worse than seeing the person's kid at the fucking funeral, dude, of somebody who killed themselves. Everybody struggles and hurts in their own way, but when you see the kid from a when you're the family or you're a friend and you look, oh my gosh, dude, it breaks me up thinking about that. And I just got tired of it, and I got so resentful of it, and so over just seeing this and knowing that that's what my friends, the people that I probably could have talked off the ledge, so to speak, were doing this, and people I didn't even think and believe that were even suicidal. You got to even think, like, most of these people, I thought that maybe there was foul play involved just because no, not that person. It could be that person. No, what? I just seen him yesterday. So, that's part of it. I had to really look inside myself and I think the last 2 or 3, recently, not recently, but within the past 5 years, 6 years, maybe seven, um, I had to really look inside myself and come to grips with the fact that, unfortunately, suicide is a part of life. It is it is something that we will encounter in this human experience that we call life on earth. There will be, just unfortunately, people that, you know, are in so despair and that are in such a dark place that they will think that the world is better off without them. And that kind of helped me that helped me a lot. And I don't know why or what gave me the ability to have that revelation, right? Because nobody said that to me. Nobody taught that to me. I would just, one day, I just randomly hit me while I was talking about the recent person. I was like, this isn't, why am I mad at this person? This isn't my fight. This isn't my battle. This is a part of my experience. I should be more thankful that I got to share space and share time with that person. Of course, I wish they didn't do it. I wish we could bring them back, and I wish that we could have had one more conversation. Of course, all those things. However, I need to be more thankful and grateful that I got to share that time with them and honor them to the best ability, because, you know, who's going to feel the same way that I felt about so many people, and who's going to dishonor those people just because they were in a moment or at a time frame they thought that the world was better without them. And I want to throw this disclaimer in there. You are definitely more needed and loved than you think you are. If you're ever in a if you're ever in a desperate place, or if you're ever in a place where you think that the world is better without you, my friends, I promise you, you're not. You're not. There's no amount of you being gone that would make anything better. You know what I mean? If anything, go to somewhere where they can treat you and give you some help, and leave that way, and you know, do something like that. There's nothing on this world that would want any of you gone. You know what I mean? Maybe some of you really fucked up people that have done some fucked up things as children, or fucked up things to people's rights. Maybe I could have a little bit of understanding if you went ahead and if you hurt children in a horrible way, in a horrible act. Yeah, I think the world probably can be better off without you. You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you about that. Other than that, I don't think anybody else. I don't think there's nothing you could have done that you can't come back from. You know, we live in a forgiving society, and no matter where you are, please. So I want to just throw that disclaimer out there as I move forward. But in a case where people, you know, are so bitter and so angry and so hurt, you know what I mean? You know, I found that to be, you know, not really conducive for what I think is best for me to move on, right? For me to honor my friend. So, you know, my friend, I mean, for an example, I take the relationship I have with my friend for, you know, 20 years, 30 years, and then all of a sudden, you know, they do the unthinkable and decide to take their own life. So now I'm just supposed to, because I'm mad and angry and hurt from the suicide, discredit the entire relationship that we had. That was kind of the battle that I was going back and forth in my head. And when I had that moment of saying, hey, you know, this is just a part of life, and this is just a part of the human experience, unfortunate as it may be, I have to be the one to learn from it. And what is the universe telling me? You know, if you want to get all big picture on it, and you want to think about things that are like a little deeper. I mean, if you got, you know, if you think you're higher power and you think you're here for a reason, if they think God sends you angels and stuff like that, like, could that be one? Could that be my angel? You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, like, I'm drawing straws here, thinking about the different reasons to why I would share space with so many people that had killed themselves, right? But I do know this. I do know that a lot of times when people feel that way, it's when they're feeling very, very alone. They're either physically alone, or in their mind they have created this space where they're alone. And I do understand why people would think this way and feel this way, right? I do think that when that decision is being made and they act on that, you know what I mean? I think that that's a space where people have just gotten so lonely that they don't think that anybody else can help them or anybody else wants to be burdened with them or all the above. And again, it's a lot of people that you would never think. It's a lot of bubbly personalities, a lot of people's people. You see comedians all the time, you know, unfortunately taking their own lives. And, you know, they seem to be some of the happiest people, you know, on earth. And they get a validation of making others laugh and stuff like that. And then you find out, you know, different celebrities have taken their lives and stuff like that. So for me, if there was a gap that we could bridge in a way to understand and see how, you know, someone gets to that point, like what are the signs when someone feels lonely? What are the signs? What are they saying that they're not saying? What are their actions speaking? What are the subtleties in their verbiage saying? You know, like what is that? You know, what are those signs that could help me just be there when somebody's, you know, alone? And that's why, you know, we take guilt when people do take their lives, that we wish we were there, because, you know, we just know that they felt very lonely to be able to do that. And this checking on your friends thing, this whole checking on your friends, you got to check on your friends, you know, make sure you check on your friends. I think it's noble in the concept of it, but you only check on your friends when somebody kills himself. You know, that's the only time we check on our friends. We don't think to check on our friends, you know, any other time until we're reminded of something that's, you know, too late. And then we're like, let's check on our friends, you know, and I'm not discrediting that concept because I think it's very noble. I just don't know how to do that. What does that look like? How do we start that? How do you check on your friends? You know, I would still go on the limb and say, keep trying. For me though, I'm thinking like, if I was in that place, right, I would lie to everybody and tell everybody it was okay. Like so many people do. So what do we do when we check on our friends and our friends say, hey, you know, I'm okay. Things are fine. Yep. Things are great. No, I'm in a good space. Do you check on your friends? Say, hey man, just hoping you don't kill yourself. Like it's such a weird dichotomy, right? It's such a weird flex because I want to be there for my friends, but most of our friends and most of us won't accept the help. We won't even ask for help. I have told so many people, hey man, if you need something, let me know. I got your back. I don't care if it's just a vent, cry, you know, whatever. And shoot, I had a person this weekend tell me that they would have done that many times, but they knew I was friends with somebody else and didn't trust that I wouldn't, you know. And then they were saying, as I'm saying this out loud, I know that this sounds foolish, but that's what was my phobia. Like, and that's just, hey, that's not a suicidal person. That's just a friend. That's just somebody like, you know what I mean? Hey, I got your back. Like, how do we break that seal of I'm going to check on my friends, but also I'm going to be like, hey, you okay? Like, it's such a foreign concept to me. And I kind of get, again, this is my perspective, I kind of get pissed off when somebody kills himself and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, we should have checked on our friends. And they go on the social media trend and that it's guys, I don't know what's right and what's wrong here. Dude, this whole episode is me firing from the hip. I'm completely winging this entire episode and this entire concept. Almost just speaking my feelings out loud and my thoughts out loud to just share perspective and get your guys' light bulbs and get your juices flowing so that maybe as a collective group we can figure out a better way to support the people that are killing themselves. I mean, we have veterans that are killing themselves at an alarming rate. We have middle school and high school children that are killing themselves at an alarming rate. We just have suicide up, especially since COVID. That has just, the numbers are insane. I think you add that with, you know, a multitude of different things, like, you know what I mean, COVID was a big factor. I still think that we're still recovering as a society from that. I especially see it in our kids. You know, I think drug addiction has plagued a huge and made a big impact on, you know, suicide. I think the economy and the social media shit that you hear with politics and the doom and gloom sales pitch of everything that everybody wants to say. I mean, we're at an alarming rate, and I don't know. I don't know the answer. I just know that I had to start forgiving those people that did it, and I had to be okay with the fact that it happened, and I had to honor their memory a better way than what I was. But the concept of checking on your friends, like, what does that mean? How do we do that? How do we make that a thing? How do we make that a thing where it's effective and it's helping and it's making a difference on those that we care's lives? Man, I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of friends that were ready to do it, but somehow, some way, shape, or form, I was able to have a play. I wasn't the savior, but my role had a play in them not doing it. I had a friend that told me, listen to this very podcast was what took the gun out of his hand and what helped him make some changes. And I fucking respect and admire this person so much, and would have never thought that. And he was in a deep, dark place. And he said, man, I listened to this podcast and it was part of what helped me. I had a friend that, our coaching staff, had intervened and tried to help and show that we loved and stuff like that. And these are very difficult things to do when you know it's a possibility it's going to happen. What do you do? And I want you to know that if you've ever felt like killing yourself and people found out, no one judges you. No one judges you. If they do judge you, I don't know what to say about that. That's weird to me. But anybody I know, including myself, I don't feel sorry for you either, motherfuckers. I don't feel sorry for you. I've had people call me and say, hey, message me, and I get on a phone call with them and they say, hey, I'm about to kill myself. And I say, okay, well, what's holding you back? I clearly I would be mindful if the guy had the, gun to his head or was standing at the end of the bridge, clearly. But I asked this follow-up question. This person, I said, well, are you in therapy? No. Is this about a girl? Yeah. Have you went to the hospital and checked yourself in? No. What steps have you taken to not potentially kill yourself? And there was no steps. I said, okay, well, if you're not going to go do any of that, then why are you wasting my time? Because I'm not going to come to your funeral. And I gave this person some tough love and some harsh love, and I don't know if it was the right thing or the wrong thing. I know that he didn't follow through, and I know that it seems like he's in a better place right now. And maybe that conversation helped, maybe not. But listen, go check in. And, the hospital will give you 3 hots and a cot in 30 days to kind of get your shit together, right? There's professionals out there. There's people that will help you. So, but nobody judges you. No one is judging you because you're in a dark space, because we've all been there. And even though I've never experienced that low of depression, and I've never, and let me back up. We've all thought about if this world would be better without us, right? Come on now. We've been in a heated, mad discussion as kids would argue, well, what if I wasn't here, Mom? What if I killed myself, Dad? I mean, we've all had those thoughts, right? Those intrusive thoughts, I should say. Maybe not as deep as somebody who's really struggling, but we've all had that concept of like, what if I wasn't here? I bet life would be better, right? Or all that. But nobody judges you as if you've got wrist scars, or scars on your wrists from attempts, or if you've made the attempt, and nobody judges you. Nobody judges you. If anybody does, they're not worth even being around or having in your life or care about. So, when we come back to the other side of it, like, how do we check on our friends and how do we have each other's backs? I just think being honest and transparent and being real and something that men struggle with so much is just being vulnerable. Just being vulnerable, man. There's a difference. You hear me talk about this male, example with these overly expressive men that express every emotion and feeling they have, but they don't really, suck it up and be men. They just want to keep expressing. And then you hear me talk about the male that is like the old cowboy, just bottles it all in and, acts like it's not going to happen. I think that I think we definitely have to express more of ourselves and be in more of what's going on, but I don't think we need to do it on every feeling. I've talked about that in other shows. Well, part of being expressive when you're expressing yourself is being vulnerable, right? And when you understand what being vulnerable really means and looks like, that's different than just talking about your feelings, if this makes any sense. In other words, when I'm vulnerable with you guys, or when I'm vulnerable with the people I care about, I come from a space where I know that no one would expect this from me, right? This version of Branden that I'm delivering at the moment. I come from a space of knowing that I am, just being wide open with the real me. That's a big difference than me bitching about shit that ain't fair me complaining about the woes of me. You see what I'm saying, man? And this applies for women too, but I'm talking to you guys for a second. You know, there's a big difference between the two. Being vulnerable is coming from a place of authenticity and coming of a place, in my opinion, of true curiosity. Like being really curious as to why I'm this way or feeling this way and what can I do to improve this way that I'm feeling, not what made me feel this way, right? And I think when you start talking about the expressiveness of feelings and being overly expressive, you know, that's when I get on people like, dude, suck it up, you know, be a man, you know, you don't have to express every damn time you have an emotion that doesn't feel good. That's life. But to circle back, I think that being vulnerable and having those vulnerable conversations are a must. And I'm gonna tell you right now, what the most vulnerable thing that I think you can say to somebody, and if you really mean it, not if you're just saying it because you're, you know, because we do have that too, is hey, I'm thinking about leaving this world. I'm thinking about killing myself. I'm thinking about not being here. I think those words are about as vulnerable as you can get. And anybody in their right mind is going to sit here and they're going to listen and they're going to say, hey, what are you going to do? What can we do? Where do we go from here? How can we make this so that you're not feeling that way or wanting to do that? And even getting even to the point where maybe even you're not even thinking about the actions, just like, hey man, I had a conversation with one of my coaches the other day. He was telling about some stuff and we kind of went back and forth. And as vulnerable as I can get with you guys out loud, and I had this conversation with him, and I just only feel like it's the best way to be is just be authentic. I don't know. I don't know where to go for help in anything, to be honest with you. I have trusted people that I can talk to about certain things. And I had, obviously, there's professional help that if I needed it, I could go get it. But maybe I'm in a like weird space where like, what's right, what's wrong? What do I do? What don't I do? Do I work this hard? Do I not work that hard? You know, like there's all these questions and we feel these moments of uncertainty and things like that. But I don't know where to go to help for that help. I don't know where to go and who to talk to or how to even ask. Hey, I don't know how I feel right now because I don't know what's going on right now. And I'm not bad. I'm okay, but I just don't know what to do and where to go because I don't know what I'm feeling and I don't know what's right. Where do you ask that, right? Shit, I got on ChatGPT and started asking that motherfucker and trying to let that motherfucker be my therapist. But it's one of those things where I think because I asked that question, he gave me some solid perspective. And he actually, fun fact, he told me about ChatGPT and use it as your therapist, right? I'm like, oh well, let me try that. And I just think that was remarkable because it took me, well, first of all, he was opening up about his situation when he's going through a tough situation. And then it gave me an opportunity to kind of just be vulnerable. And I wasn't vulnerable because I wanted to open up to talk to my friend about this shit. I was only vulnerable because I wanted him to know that, hey, we're all struggling too. We're going to get through this together. And this is my struggle. And if you want me to share this with you, let me give you a perspective. You know what I mean? We're there. We're all in this together. We're men. You know what I mean? We're feeling the things that men feel. And women feel this too. I'm not just being one gender specific here. But I think that's a prime start, man, is really getting vulnerable and slowing the fuck down. Like this earth is gyrating at a rate unheard of, man. It's a bunch of fucking busy ants that are just running all over the place. You know what's a funny perspective? This is kind of relatable. I love music festivals. I love like EDM, mix of music genre, EDM festival. I think they're the funnest thing in the world, man. I have a blast at them. You're with 50, 60, 70,000 people that you don't know, that no judge you, you know what I mean? You can be as, you know, I actually, to be honest with you, I gained a lot of personal development at EDM festivals. And then also, to be honest with you, I also, you know, looked at them as a place just to fucking party and get fucked up the entire time. And that kind of lost its pizzazz too. So there was spectrums on both sides that, you know, I had to understand and look at. But then when you take it and you look at it for what it is, an EDM festival, you know, or a big music festival, you know, that has multiple genres of music with 50, 60, 70, 80, 90,000 people is quite an event, quite an awesome thing to experience. But like, I don't know if it's because I was out of my mind or I don't know, it was because, you know, I was just older or what, but I would sit back and I would just observe this massive amount of people all vibing to music and listening to music and enjoying themselves. And you just always see people walking, right? You see people walking into the crowd. You see people walking out of the crowd. You see people coming back, going forward. Everybody's just on the move to go nowhere. Like, usually if you think about this, we're in a huge plot of land, and you have multiple stages with multiple vendors and multiple things, and music's usually running at majority of the stages. Like, you can listen to like a rock band here and an EDM band here and a rap artist there, but it's never like usually there's always one main stage is playing the biggest act, right? But it's funny. It's like people are just moving, going, don't know where they're going, right? Don't know what they're doing. And it's not the drugs and the alcohol that's doing it. It's just the fact that I don't think people know what to do with themselves. That most people don't just hang out and just sit. Now, there's a lot of people on the backs of the lawns, and there's all different things. If you get a chance, go to a music festival. It's a great time. But again, when you're looking at it, it's so funny. You just have people coming and going everywhere, and they don't come back with food or drinks, and they don't go nowhere. And maybe they're going to the bathroom, but how many times you go to the bathroom and they're busy ants. And it's the same concept that I see at a music festival that I see as this world. Everybody's moving fast, not going nowhere. And I think when you're moving fast and so fast, and it's all about the grind, it's all about the work, and it's all about this, and it's all about that, I think you move so fucking fast that you don't understand. You need time to digress, time to decompress, time to take some chill some chill mode and just relax and take in what you're seeing. I know as an entrepreneur, I do this all the time. I move so fast, I climb a hill. I'm always looking at the next hill to climb once I get to the top of it, not even admiring the view while I'm at the top of the hill I'm on. And that's a problem. That's a problem for your mental health. That's a problem for your purpose. That's a problem for the example that we set. That's a problem. One of the things that I struggle with in life is, am I working my life away and running out of time with the people that I want to spend that grind with? I've got this thought in my mind that I know that I can change the dichotomy of my family forever. I have this belief structure that I am the one, not in a cocky, conceited way, just in a way that I know that God's blessed me so many times and shown me so many different roads. I wouldn't be on this motherfucking podcast if I didn't think that way. I have a feeling that in a belief that in my heart of hearts that I can give my family and the family of choice that I care about an opportunity to live a life that they've never lived before. So in that quest for that belief to come true, I fucking grind my ass off, and I commit so much, and I spend so much time, and I suffer just like any entrepreneur, business owner, or any other person on a quest for greatness, just as much as anybody else. What's the balance? What's the harmony? What is the ratio of how much time I work versus how much time I spend with friends and family? And I'm learning more and more that I've been getting it wrong for a long time. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and put my feet up and be lazy, or that I'm not going to grind. It just means that, I'm working on things that make sense to change. And that maybe is a whole nother podcast we could talk about. So to give me opportunity to knock on my friend's door and just come unannounced, say, hey man, let's grab a drink and hang out. Let's just talk. But give me an opportunity to show up to my family's house, my brother's house, my cousin's house, and just say, hey, what are you doing? I miss you. My mother's house. It'll give me these opportunities once now that I understand that I am running out of time with these people. Because if life takes its natural course, the day you're born is the day you begin dying. And if you add something like suicide into play, who knows? Who knows how much longer I have with these people that I care about? You're going to come across you're going to come across people in your life, or you already have them, or you're born with them, that are fucking amazing people. They're phenomenal human beings. And you only have a certain allotted time where you get to spend with these people. You don't get to keep them. They're not yours to keep forever. People are in your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And you do not get to keep these people forever. So it's our responsibility to maximize the time that we spend to them and extract as many lessons as we can, much value and as much time as we can from these people before we have to let them go or they move on. And I think that unannounced, randomly, a phone call, a knock on a door, a check-in, I think that's what checking in on your friends mean. I don't think saying, hey, buddy, how you doing? I think like, hey, what's up? I'm here. I want to see you. Because if there's one thing I really appreciate and love, It's sitting with a person and just sharing space and sharing conversation. I love it so much. I get distracted all the time. So I don't know, guys. I don't know the direction this episode was supposed to go. I don't know what the point of it was. I don't even know if we got any farther than where we started. I do know is I started the conversation. I started the conversation with you guys and with people that listen to hopefully start another conversation. And maybe there's some things you can help me with. Please leave in the comments, message us. I don't care. If you're ever in need of someone, I don't give a fuck. I am here for you. And I don't need to know you. I'm here for you. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to give you the shit. I'm going to give you straight. I'm not going to baby you. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. But I'd much rather you call me, DM me, message me, throw me a fucking smoke signal before you kill yourself. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. So even if it's not me, there are some people in your lives that will be more than willing to talk to you than to sit here and not. But if you get to that place where you're that lonely, you get to that place where you're that down in the dumps, you get to that place where it's so desperate, reach out, man. Reach out. The world is not better without you. I promise you. The world is not better without you. The world is not better. You are not that much of a burden, okay? And we can always come back from any mistake we made. And if you're like me, trying to figure out what that check on your friends means, I think just slowing the fuck down and just stop moving so fast. Take some time to just relax. No distractions, no video games, no podcast, no phone, no computer, no nothing. Just some time to just take it in and see what's next. And then go fucking knock on a door, man. Fuck it. Go unannounced. Go call somebody up. Make it a thing. Don't let it get away from you. Call your friends, call your family. Just be first. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. It's been real. You know, I'm glad I got to get on here and share some of the stuff that I'm going through or thinking or feeling or whatever. For you guys, man, if you get value out of this or know somebody who would, please send this to them. Like and subscribe to the channels. You know, give us a review. All that stuff really helps. Don't just say good show. Give us something more in depth about what you're feeling and you're going through, your experience from this show. That helps us understand where we need to go and what more value we can deliver. And it also makes me feel pretty fucking good. And if there's things that I could change or things that I need improvement, please, by all means, you know, YouTube, keep flaming me in the comments. I welcome that and appreciate that. But until next time, guys, what are you doing today to become a champion?